You are welcome to yet another episode of HN What's Your Say? The #1 listening show where we discuss real issues with real people like you. We are still featuring R. Kelly. Real name Robert Sylvester Kelly. Also known as the R&B King. When the war against R. Kelly began back in 2019, when the surviving R. Kelly stars took to Lifetime television to take part in one of the worst mudslinging campaign ever, every one of them sounded like they had a case against the R&B King. Each and every one of the women had a story to tell, and yes, they all sounded convincing until later when we started learning that they were not being truthful about so many things. By the time a woman lies about their age when sharing their own story in reference to such a serious matter that could send someone to jail, it becomes difficult to believe anything else they say, for they could be lying about everything. During the time of the surviving R. Kelly documentary though, Azriel Clary together with Joycelyn Savage, who were living with R. Kelly at the Trump Towers at that time, were still on R. Kelly's side, and the two featured in several interviews defending him from his accusers, and revealing that their parents were only after money and not their well-being. In fact, as we all must have watched during the Gayle King interview at Trump Towers, Azriel Clary was the most vocal of the two, and during her speech, she dropped bombshell accusations against her parents, suggesting they had deliberately deployed her as a bait for R. Kelly to bite, such that they could pocket him and ask him to do anything they wanted him to do, including send dollars to their bank account whenever they wanted him to. In fact, Azriel goes on to state that not long before the interview, her parents had been threatening R. Kelly with all kinds of messages that suggested if he didn't send $20,000 to Angelo's bank account by close of business the next day, they were going to tarnish his name and show his pictures with their daughter all over the media. This was pure blackmail, and until today, everyone who listened to this interview is still shaken to see how cruel parents of today can be to solicit their own child, and later use them as a blackmail tool against the man. Azriel was never a government asset until later, after R. Kelly was arrested and detained at the MCC. In fact, even after this detention, she and Joycelyn Savage visited him from time to time and reaffirmed they were to stand by him through the entire ordeal, and that if he had to go to trial, they were to testify as defense witnesses against the government. In a twist of events, however, before long we heard that Azriel had flipped on R. Kelly and was taking interviews with The Sun and with other reporters, throwing R. Kelly under the bus. Wondering why she would do this, we imagined it's possible the shortage of finances to support their lifestyle, which had seen her and Azriel thrown out of the Trump Towers, had taken a toll on her, finally allowing the parents an upper hand over her making of decisions. Little did we know that this was all as a result of serious witness tampering event that involved not only Azriel's parents, but also the Bureau of Prisons and the government, who in a sort of enterprise planned to have R. Kelly's jail calls and emailed leaked to blogger Tasha K, who would make this a public gossip, and also help influence Azriel to turn her back on R. Kelly. Indeed, Azriel, who from this call information learnt that R. Kelly was not only planning to leave her for Joycelyn, but was also hiding money from her somewhere in the Trump Tower apartment, could not help but flip and take the government's side as their new principal witness to send R. Kelly to prison. To make matters worse, Azriel and her greedy father were quick to drive to the Trump Towers and steal the bag full of money, whose whereabouts they learnt from the recorded calls with Joycelyn. A new development that made her prefer R. Kelly as an inmate in prison than on the loose to deal with her conduct. Azriel therefore cooked up all the stories she told as government witness only because she now needed the man she had stolen from to remain locked up for as long as possible. This is the perfect motivation for a woman to lie on a man, and so she did. Because the government was looking to frame R. Kelly with RICO charges, and Azriel had been involved in travels to California to attend R. Kelly's music concerts while on tour, they felt they needed her testimony a lot more than they needed those by the other women, and therefore she was able to get a better bargain of how much in restitutions by percentage she would be given if she took the government's side. Like that, Azriel quickly became the government's most expensive witness and will be taking the lion's share of the $500,000 New York federal judge Ann Donnelly gifted the accusers with, irrespective of their lack of credibility, and the lack of evidence to prove their allegations against the R&B King. According to reports, Azriel Clary is entitled to approximately $300,000 of the $500,000 to be seized from R. Kelly's royalties currently held by Sony and Universal Music Publishing Group. The federal government prosecutors moved to have these royalty funds seized a few days back in a new filing to the New York federal court judge in Brooklyn, claiming their witnesses want their restitutions as soon as possible. They would definitely wish to have access to this money before the appeal, such that in case they lose at this level, they have already spent most of it, which would make it difficult for defendant to recover. Remember, their attorneys usually have a share of this money, and this could see convicted felon Michael Avenatti become one of the beneficiaries, as he represented a number of these grown women called victims. According to Mindy Stein, if the Bureau of Prisons didn't leak R. Kelly's prison calls and emails, information that is supposed to be restricted, Azriel wouldn't have had the chance to steal his money from the Trump Towers. And maybe she wouldn't have had a reason to join the government and betray R. Kelly in the process by bearing false witness against him. You are therefore right to suggest this was all about money and nothing else. I, however, fail to understand why the government would still think she deserves the $300,000 in restitutions with the recent text message evidence that has been revealed, and the story about the ID she carried along with her all the time that showed she was 18 and not 17 like she now alleges. In fact, Thomas is right to say that everyone who was involved in the case against R. Kelly on the government side deserves to go to jail, starting with Sony officials, the Bureau of Prisons officers, the New York judge, and many more. By failing at providing justice, they failed not only R. Kelly but the entire country of 331 million citizens. According to Teresa McGee Jones, there is definitely a reason they are trying to rush this, but trust me, they will not get a dime of this money. They definitely see the dynamics of the case changing, and this is not in their favor. They therefore want their cut so they can run with it and never be seen again when the appeal is over. They are afraid of walking out of this with nothing, as happened to witness Jane in Chicago, who, after spending R. Kelly's money renting an apartment and going to school on his cost, she was quick to degrade him and speak the worst of him on the court stand. If you wish to take part in a live interview on this channel discussing any of these topics, let us know by emailing us on sashahnnewsroom@gmail.com for scheduling. That is all we had for you today on HN What's Your Say. To keep updated whenever we post a new video, subscribe to this channel now. Also remember to hit the bell icon and enable notifications. And feel free to share your opinions with us in the comment section below, and let us know if you would like us to publish your views in our next release. We value all our subscribers' opinions.